Breaking news, folks. Robert Saleh got fired. That's right, he got fired. We got a lot to talk about and all of that, as well as, unfortunately, I thought this episode was going to be a great episode, a wonderful episode, an amazing episode of us beating the Cowboys, but clearly that did not happen because of various things. Yes, various things. I'll just leave it at that because I'll ruin everything, okay? The Vikings go to London and they leave with a W, okay? The Ravens fly away with a dub. Now, that was a great game. That was a great game. The Commanders, once again, win again. And what do? They tame the Browns, okay? And the 49ers are still sleeping. Yeah, I know. And listen, this episode is going to be a whole lot longer, but you know what? No. We're going to have to break this up into other episodes, okay? All of this and more, okay? Buckle up because we got ourselves a loaded episode full of twists and turns, full of stats, full of hot takes, all these different things, conspiracy theories. You know it. You love it. We all love it, okay? Because guess what? I am your host, okay? I am your chief, head of the table, chief, back row dominus. I am the man with the plan. I am the person who is mock drafting 3 years in advance, okay? Today, you know where we are. We are in the great state of North Carolina eating some good barbecue sandwiches with some coleslaw. Yeah, that's right. We're doing all of that and more, okay? But I don't like any of those other titles because you know why? There's a title that I very value the most, okay? I am your GM who currently is not on a team right now, but guess what? Guess what? You already know what I'm getting ready to say. I am your host, Kale. On 3, 1, 2, 3. Let's lock in. All right, folks, let's get into the meat and potatoes of everything that is going on in the league. And there's a lot going on in the league, okay? There is a lot. There is a curveball that happened this morning when I was looking at ESPN. I'm finishing up on the notes for this episode. And what happens? Robert Saleh gets fired. Robert Saleh got fired. Ain't that some shit? Ain't that some shit? That's just crazy, man. But you know what? We got to get into it. We have to talk about it. So now, former Jets head coach Robert Saleh was fired this morning by the owner Woody Johnson. Yeah, I honestly, folks, I'm still in shock that this actually happened. But you know, I had a feeling something like this was going to happen once the game was over in London because just of how poorly they played that game against the Vikings. Like, the offense was just absolutely atrocious. And we already knew that 9 times out of 10 that Robert Saleh was going to be the sacrificial lamb, unfortunately. And it sucks. It sucks because I'm not saying that Robert Saleh was doing this tremendous job and, you know, he was an all-pro, you know, great, you know, one of the best head coaches in the league. I'm not saying that, but, you know, he did not get a fair shake in this situation. He did not. Now, there are some things that, you know, he has to take responsibility for, and there's other things that other people have to take responsibility for. But the fact of the matter is, folks, Robert Saleh was fired just, you know, out of emotion. Out of emotion. Nothing else. Not because of he was doing a bad job or there was friction in the locker room or any of those different types of things. He got fired out of emotion, okay? Now, when we look at this, okay, we have to sort of go back in order to move forward, right? Because I feel like there were certain seeds that were planted in front of us that we didn't really pay a whole lot of attention to, but now that this situation has occurred, now we have to bring those things back up, okay? So you remember back in around March when the NFL was having their meetings and whatnot, I think in Florida or whatever they have it, there was a report going around that, you know, various journalists were confirming that there was a heated argument between Robert Saleh and Woody Johnson, right? And once that story had came out, they were trying to downplay it and all those different types of things. But to me, I feel like that was probably when things probably started to build up. And then as time continued to go on and on and on and on, now you have, a full blown fire at this point. And then it also doesn't help that, Robert Saleh said stuff about how Aaron needed to, to be there, with mini camp and all those different types of things, because Aaron likes to go on these, excursions and whatnot. So you can definitely tell that there was something brewing, honestly speaking, here, because of the situation. Even when you look at Quincy Williams, his comments after the game against the Vikings, this is what he said, and I quote: "I'm going to be honest. People get tired of hearing the same shit. People gotta start taking accountability. People get tired of hearing the same thing every week. That's all I gotta say." Now, he probably said a whole lot without saying a whole lot, right? Because whether we want to admit it or not, the defense has been the bright spot of this entire team since Robert Saleh has been the head coach for the Jets. That's been the bright spot, right? Quincy Williams, Sauce, Quinnen Williams, the pass rushers and whatnot. That's a really good defense. It is. It is a really good defense. And it was just the offense that's been lackluster. And it's been lackluster for quite a while now. And granted, Robert Saleh was trying to get another offensive coordinator. He was trying to do it, but nobody wanted to touch the job. Now, that could be for, various reasons, because of, unstable ownership, or Aaron Rodgers, or just, they were looking for other opportunities, whatever the case may be. But the fact of the matter is, nobody else wanted it. And they were stuck with Nate Hackett, who, in my eyes, is not an offensive coordinator. He's not. He is basically just somebody who is connected to Aaron Rodgers and basically is riding off of the coattail of Aaron Rodgers. I will continue to say that publicly, privately, whatever you want. Okay, if you got a problem with it, you can follow. You can talk about it on the YouTube, the Instagram, or the TikTok. That's just what it is at this point. Because whether we want to admit it or not, Aaron Rodgers, in my mind, has a hand to play in this, because you're not going to make this type of decision without you having input from other people. Because let's be real here. Let's really address the elephant in the room in this situation here, okay? This has been an absolute shit show. And I mean exactly what I say. An absolute shit show, okay? You trade for a quarterback who basically was on the edge of retirement and whatnot. Okay, cool. You trade for him. You get all of his buddies, from Alan Lazard to Randall Cobb. You got Nate Hackett. You got all these different people, right? All these different people for him, for this one person, because y'all were under the impression that if we get him, he's going to take us to the next level. He's going to take us to the place that we haven't been in decades. No. All he has done is been a cancer to the Jets locker room. That's all he's been. See, everybody else takes accountability for the things that they could control, even the things that they couldn't control. They still take accountability for it. Aaron Rodgers does not take accountability. He doesn't. He does not take accountability for anything that he does, for anything that he says, and it shows. It absolutely shows. You're talking about somebody that is as sensitive of a 4-year-old. That is how sensitive Aaron Rodgers is. And for someone to basically, by his body language, because when you look at that game, after he started to throw some of those picks, you could tell he was basically done with the game. That's not what you want as your quarterback. The difference between Tom Brady and Peyton Manning when they left their respective teams and they went to the other teams is not only did they win championships, but they had a pedigree with them, right? They had a pedigree with them. It wasn't just, it's Peyton Manning and Tom Brady. No, these are people who are some of the best and who demand greatness from everyone. From the person that was drafted in the first round to the undrafted person. He demands greatness out of everyone. And it showed because what happened? They won They won the championship. Now, to some people, you'll probably say, well, Aaron Rodgers could have done it. No, he couldn't have. Because you know why? Aaron couldn't get out of Aaron's own way. I'm going to say that again. Aaron Rodgers could not get out of his own way. His ego has to be constantly stroked all the time in order to please him. And look what it's caused. It's caused for Robert Saleh to be fired. That's what it's caused. And it's absolutely very frustrating because now, guess what? Now everyone's going to be talking about, well, Robert Saleh did a bad job. Robert Saleh did a bad job. I'm just going to tell you his record. I'm going to tell you his record right now. His coaching record is 20-36. Now you're probably thinking, man, that's a horrible coaching record. No. Yes, it is, but at the same time, we have to be real here. He had Zach Wilson, which that was an absolute bust. He was not dealt with the best cards. He was not. And, for whatever reason, I feel like me personally, I feel like they probably could have had an opportunity to maybe get someone like a CJ Stroud or whomever from these recent quarterback draft classes than to just stick with a 40-year-old who, doesn't know if he wants to play football or not and is really not committed to playing the game of football. Like, you can tell by Aaron Rodgers that you can tell by his body language, his posture, the way that he talks and all those things, that he is not fully committed to playing football. When you look at Tom Brady, he still has that fire in his eyes. Even at his current age right now, Tom Brady still has that fire, that desire to continue to go out there to compete and to possibly win championships. Now, and that is why, in my mind, I will always value Tom Brady more than Aaron Rodgers. Now, yes, Aaron Rodgers was more physically gifted and whatnot, but Tom Brady had this resilient mindset that no matter what, come hell or high water, I'm going to win this damn game. We're going to win it one way or the other. And it showed. Even during COVID, Tom Brady got in trouble because he wanted to practice with the receivers in a park. During the pandemic, during the height of the pandemic, where everybody was being told to stay in the house, mask up, you couldn't do anything. That just shows you how committed and how crazy he was to wanting to win, to be competitive. Aaron Rodgers, on the other hand, I don't see that. And I would not be surprised if there's more and more leaks that are going to be coming out within the next few days, in the next few weeks, of this whole debacle, of this whole situation. I would not be surprised. I wouldn't, because of this lackluster, quarterback that they have that, is being labeled as the savior for the Jets that's going to, lead them to a championship. No, he wasn't. He wasn't going to lead you to a playoff win. He wasn't. It's all about Aaron. The world revolves around Aaron. And if it doesn't, guess what's going to happen? He's going to say something about it. He's going to get in his feelings. He's going to pout. He's going to cry. And it shows. But you know what? This puts now all the pressure on Aaron Rodgers. You no longer have nobody else to help defend you in your bad performances. You now have to do a better job, because if you don't, they're going to get rid of you too, Aaron. You don't even know it. You don't even realize it. If the owner, quote unquote, air quote, big air quotes, gets rid of him, what makes you think he won't get a review, Aaron? Because if we're being honest here, the main person that should be getting fired is the offensive coordinator, because the offense has been stagnant, which then this tails into that game. We might as well want to go into. I wanted to talk about the Steelers and the Cowboys, but because of this breaking news and because of this, I think we do need to have this connection go into the Vikings and Jets game. And another thing, okay, when we look at the Tom Brady and Peyton Manning, situations and whatnot, because I know there's going to be people that's going to be talking about it. Guess what? You don't have to worry about, if they're not committed to playing football or not. You don't have to worry about, their leadership. You don't have to question any of those type of things, because why? They have a track record. You can see what they were doing before they got to wherever they went to, right? Before Peyton Manning went to the Broncos, guess what? Everybody knew that Peyton Manning was well respected, that he demanded greatness out of you. Same thing with Tom Brady. You knew that being on a team with Tom Brady, he was going to be very detail oriented. He was going to get in your ass a few times when he sees that you're slacking. But guess what? Guess what's going to happen? He's going to lead you to a championship. Now, moving on to the Jets and Vikings game. So let's start with Mr. Drama King himself, Aaron Rodgers. So Aaron Rodgers was 29 for 54, 244 passing yards, 2 touchdowns, 3 picks, 4.5 yards per attempt, and 83.7 completion percentage, right? Brees Hall was 9 attempts for 23 yards, 2.6 yards per carry. And Garrett Wilson was 22 targets for 13 receptions, 101 yards, 1 touchdown, 7.8 receiving yards per reception, right? That's the Jets side. Okay, cool. Now, to the Vikings side, okay? Sam Darnold, 14 for 31, 179 passing yards, 1 pick, 5.8 yards per attempt, and a 45.2 completion percentage. Okay, cool. Justin Jefferson, 14 targets for 6 receptions, 92 yards, 15.3 receiving yards per reception. Ty Chandler, 14 attempts for 30 yards, 2.1 rushing yards per carry. Now, when we look at this in its totality, right? This was a very winnable game for both sides. It was just as much of a winnable game for the Jets as it was for the Vikings. Okay, but the thing that changed everything was the Vikings were playing more defense. They was playing better defense, and they were converting when it came to the picks. They were converting. They got a pick 6, and then they were just doing their thing. And it was a point in time where Aaron Rodgers was looking like a deer looking at headlights. That's how bad he looks. And he just looks horrible. He just looks absolutely horrible, because even when we look at this, right? When we look at the Jets offensive rankings, both passing and rushing, according to NFL Pro, right? The Jets passing offense is 19th in the league. 64.2 passing play percentage, 5.1 passing yards per play, 8 touchdowns. Cool. The Jets rushing offense, dead last, 32nd. 35.8 run rate percentage, 3.6 rushing yards per play, 3 touchdowns. This offense is stagnant. It's stagnant, it's regressing, and it's costing them games. The defense is doing the defense is keeping them in games. It's the offense. And that's why you had people like Garrett Wilson who came out and said what he said, because why? He knows that, guess what? I was a little bit more productive when we had Zach Wilson. We ain't really been, productive since they got Nathaniel Hackett and Aaron Rodgers. And it shows. There was a play where Aaron Rodgers threw a pick and he literally threw it in double coverage. The receiver was literally getting the receiver had the corner literally right on his heels, and he had a safety over top. Why would you do that, Aaron? Why? Now, if this was the Aaron of old, we all know he wouldn't have done that. But this is the Aaron that that we have presented in front of us, and he did it. He did it. There were some times where the Jets were trying to keep, they were trying to keep the team in it, and they couldn't do it. The offense could not do it for whatever reason, and ultimately it costed them, and this is where we are right now. Now we are at a crossroads where now the Jets, have to figure out what do they want to do moving forward. Now, the interim head coach, however, is reportedly somebody that is well known, well respected around various coaching circles. And apparently Kyle Shanahan actually was trying to see if he could make him the defensive coordinator once DeMeco Ryans had departed. But apparently the Jets did not allow that. And so here we are. I also have to mention that this new interim head coach also is a defensive-minded head coach as well. So just want to put that out there. But when we look at this, the the Jets are in a situation where right now there's a lot of turmoil, right? There's a lot of instability in the locker room. And, the only way that you can sort of quiet it and silence it is with wins. That's it. No, I don't care what anyone says. I want you to remember this. This is a junkie nugget for every single person. This, you can apply this for life, anything. Winning blankets everything. Winning blankets everything. If there is turmoil in the locker room and the quarterback is going at it with all of his receivers, he hates all of his receivers' guts. I mean, he can't stand to look at them. But guess what? If they're winning, you won't hear a peep about it. But if you start losing, guess what happens? That's when you're going to hear everything about it. That's when you're going to hear all the rumors and this and that, this leak and that leak, all those different types of things. That's what happens. That is what happens. And it's a nasty situation all around. I'm going to continue to say it. It's a very nasty situation. It's a bad situation, for the Jets offense because you had people like Tyron Smith that went there, Mike Williams that went there, and it's just dysfunctional. It's dysfunctional all around. Like, even with the Hassan Reddick situation, that probably could have been smoothed over with Robert Saleh, but guess what? You screwed it up. You screwed it up. Like, this is just, oh man, this is going to be talked about for a while, folks. So, buckle in, buckle up, all those different types of things. Now, on to the game that everybody talked about, the game that we probably, missed probably a lot of sleep for, and the game that, we stayed up a little bit longer than what we probably should have, all for us to, to lose, unfortunately. So the Steelers lost to the Cowboys. So let's just get into it, because there's a lot of twists and turns with it. Jesus, man, we just had to do it. You just had to do it. You just had to lose the way that we lost. Now, let's just get into everything, okay? So Dak Prescott was 29 for 42, 352 passing yards, 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, 8.4 yards per attempt, and a 69% completion percentage. Rico, I don't even know how to pronounce your last name, dog. I'm no disrespect to you. I don't even know how to pronounce your last name. It was 20 attempts for 87 yards, 4.4 yards per carry. He had 3 rushes of 10 plus yards, okay? Jalen Tolbert, 10 targets for 7 receptions, 87 yards, 1 touchdown, 12.4 receiving yards per reception. Justin Fields, 15 for 27, 131 yards, 2 touchdowns, 4.9 yards per attempt, a 55.6 completion percentage. Najee Harris, 14 attempts for 42 yards, 3 yards per attempt. Van Jefferson, 5 targets for 3 receptions, 26 yards, 8.7 receiving yards per reception. Now, when we look at this was a very winnable game for the Steelers. This should have been a game where basically you rebound from the Colts loss, right? This was supposed to be a game where the defense gets back on track, the offense starts to show a little bit more, all those different types of things. It did not happen. It did not happen. And, I understand that there's people that, initially they were saying, oh, Arthur Smith is a bad offensive coordinator. Oh, you got to get rid of him. You got to get rid of him. Oh. I get all of that. I do. I understand that. I know how you're feeling. But when we look at it, they were trying to be a little bit more aggressive than what they have been in the last few games. Case in point, the deep shot to Connor Hayward and then the other deep shot to Darnell Washington. If both of those two make those passes, that's 7 points on the board already, right? So, I mean, I feel like the offense is once again stagnant. And I think, when we look at this, it brings back the memories of Matt Canada, basically. A stagnant offense that's not doing anything with the situation that that is presented on the offense. But if we're being real here, I think we have to put a little bit of blame on Omar. I think we do. I think he put the cart before the horse. I think he whiffed on the Brandon Ayuk situation, And, I think he definitely whiffed on the Deontay Johnson situation as well. I think he really did, because when we look at this, he just, it, the offense is struggling. The offense is struggling. It is devoid of, necessary talent within the receiver room. And it's not good enough. It's not good enough. It's not. And, I understand George Pickens was supposed to be, tested to see if he was going to be the number one receiver and all those different types of things. I get all of that, but I think his ego is too much in the way, and his attitude is too much of a problem, that it's causing problems. It's causing problems. There were literally plays when you look at the all 22 film where he was not properly running at full speed to run his routes. He was jogging, while everybody else was running at full speed and running their routes and their breaks and holding their blocks and doing whatever. He was jogging. If you're a teammate, that makes you feel some type of way. That makes you feel some type of way. And granted, George Pickens has all the talent in the world to be one of the best receivers in the world. I'm not taking that away from him. But the only thing that is going to stop him from making the type of money that he wants, from getting the notoriety and respect that he feels like he deserves, guess what? He has to be better. His attitude has to be better. We have seen multiple players who, guess what? The league is just like, to hell with you. Forget about your talent. You may have all the talent in the world. You may be one of the best of the best, but guess what? If your attitude is some crap and everywhere you go it's a problem, oh, they just won't deal with you. They'll find your replacement. They will get as close as they can to getting a spitting image of you. And it's a nasty situation. And it also doesn't help when you have Mike Tomlin saying, they limited, George Pickens, snaps, because they're basing it off of quote unquote snap management. Snap management. George Pickens is 23 years old. 23 years old. Why in the world do you want to do snap management with him? He's literally the best receiver that you have on the team. Literally. He is the best person that you have in that receiver room. And you want to do snap management? No one is buying it, Mike. No one is buying it. No one is. This was a very winnable game. This was a game that the Steelers should have won. And didn't, for whatever reason. It's not good enough. The offense is starting off slow, and this is not going to help you when you go up against the Chiefs, the Eagles, the Ravens, the Browns, all those other teams. It's not going to help you. You have to come out guns blazing, because guess what? They're not going to do the same. They're not. They're trying to put points on the board as quickly as you do. And you cannot have this defense that's one of the most expensive defenses in the world doing their part, but then the offense is not doing their part. Arthur Smith, you got to do more screen passes, more, jet sweeps. You have Calvin Austin. You have someone who literally ran, I think, almost a 4.2 or 4.3. You can do a jet sweep. You literally have Darnell Washington, who's like basically a second right tackle who plays tight end. What are we doing here, folks? There was literally a point in time, and I lie to you not, where I was literally able to pick up on the cadences and know exactly if it was going to be a run or pass. You want to know how I know? Because every time that Justin Fields said, okay, we're good, oh, it's a run. It's a run every time. Every time. Every time he said, we're good, we're good, we're good, guess what? It's a run. It's a run. And that, if you would have told me that a Cowboys team without Micah Parsons, D-Law, Deron Bland, and Brandon Cooks would come into Pittsburgh and beat them, I would have called you a liar. Once again, this is classic Mike Tomlin. He wins the games that he's not supposed to win, and he loses the games that he's not supposed to lose. That's just what it is. It's nothing else. The defense were doing their things. They were doing their thing. The offense wasn't able to convert those turnovers into points. And that's not good. Now, granted, there are people that are saying, oh, Justin Fields need to be benched and whatnot. No, because you are messing up his development. This is the best version of Justin Fields that we have seen in its entirety of his entire career. This is, statistically speaking, probably going to be his best year in his entire career so far. Why in the world would you want to mess that up to put in someone like Russell Wilson? No, 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 no. You have to give Justin Fields a chance to redeem himself, because may I remind you, Steelers fans, Justin Fields almost made that comeback against the Colts. Had he not fumbled, and then George Pickens fumbled, we probably would have won that game. We probably would have won that game. You have to give him a chance. Now, if he is still doing the same things that he's doing with the Raiders, then okay, cool. There's nothing that you can do. But if you want to do a real evaluation of what you have in both quarterbacks, so you can figure out if you're going to sign one long term or not, then you have to give them a chance. You have to give them a chance. If you don't give them a chance, guess what? You won't know what you have. You won't. You won't. What is it that Russell Wilson can do now that Justin Fields can't do? What is it? Now, granted, we all knew that when Justin Fields was coming out of Ohio State, Ohio, I just had to do that for my family that lives in Ohio. I'm sorry. Sorry, guys. We knew that once he was coming out of Ohio, that, he was having problems with, vision, and he wasn't able at times to look down at the field, and we knew all those different types of things, right? You knew what you were getting when you traded for Justin Fields. You knew it. So if you knew it, then you know that this is a process. This is how you know that if he is going to be the future quarterback, the future starting quarterback of the Pittsburgh Steelers, or if this is basically going to be a one-year rental. That's basically what it boils down to. And granted, I understand today Mike apparently said that, Russell Wilson is going to be, ramping up his practice and all those different types of things. I just feel like personally that is going to hurt Justin Fields more than help him. You have to continue to roll with this momentum, okay? This is the bumps and the bruises that comes with the season, okay? You win some and you lose some. But it's what you do when you lose that matters the most. If Justin Fields comes back and he puts on a phenomenal game against the Raiders, then guess what? All is forgiven, move forward. But if he continues to struggle, well, then that's when you have to make a necessary change. That's just what it is. Because when we look at things, right, according to NFL Pro, right, the Steelers' passing offense is ranked 27th in the league, okay? 47.8 passing play percentage, 5.9 passing yards per play, 5 touchdowns, okay? The team rushing offense is 13th in the league, 52.2 run rate, 3.7 rushing yards per play, 3 touchdowns, 16 rushes of 10 plus yards or more, and a 39.6 rushing success rate. Now, granted, I understand that, the offensive line is beat up and whatnot, and, the run game is basically, it's basically being relied on Najee Harris. I get all of that, but still, you have to do more. You have to do more. You have to check the play calling. And I get it. Arthur Smith is trying to, say, oh, the dam's going to break, but you have to give Justin Fields a chance. Now, do I feel like the coaches may not trust Justin Fields all the way? There's a possibility. It does sort of feel like, they're giving him the generic stuff and then holding all the good stuff for Russ. When it's like, no, you got to get in your bag with Justin Fields, okay? Everyone says, oh, he's athletic, he's able to move, he's able to do this, he got a big arm, all those different type of things. You have to use what you have. Now, granted, is he in a situation where he doesn't have a whole lot of talent, with the receivers and whatnot? Yes, it is true. But, I mean, hopefully Omar, is able to get Devontae Adams. Hopefully, I don't know. But, that's just what it is. Because even when you look at his personal rankings, out of all the quarterbacks, he's ranked 19th. Okay? So far, he is 92 for 136, 961 passing yards, 5 touchdowns, 1 pick, 7.1 yards per attempt, and a 67.6 completion percentage. That's okay. That's okay. It can be better. Of course, there's always room for improvement, but that's okay. That shows you that someone is trying to get better. He's playing mistake-free football. He's only thrown one pick. Only thrown one pick. Now, granted, he sort of have had a little bit of a fumbling problem. Yes, I do get that and accept that. But he's trying. He's trying. This is the best version that we have seen with him. You have to continue to go with what you have. You just do. As far as the Cowboys put on a really good job. Dak Prescott showed his value. He did. Now there was a point where things were starting to look a little stagnant, but Dak did his thing, and he relied on not only CeeDee Lamb, but he relied on other players, and they won. They won. Jalen Tolbert balling out. Rico was doing his thing. If you would have told me the team who is fourth in allowing the most rushing yards do what they did to this Steelers run game, I would have called you a liar. Even the defense. The Cowboys came in there with a chip on their shoulder and a mindset of, okay, yes, we are the underdogs, but we're going to show you guys why you never should have doubted us. And they won. They walked away with the victory. And now the Steelers are trying to play, pick yourselves up and trying to figure out what you're going to do. So, well, it is what it is. Now, on to a really good game that definitely needs to be talked about, okay? The Ravens and the Bengals. That was a good game, okay? That was a really good game. That was a back and forth game. Really good AFC North, the divisional game. Nothing really bad to complain about it. Joe Burrow was doing his thing. Lamar was doing his thing. It really just came down to who's going to make the play. Who's going to make the game-changing play. And the Ravens did it. The Ravens won. And, the Bengals are still trying to, pick themselves up and trying to recover and just figure out what they want to do moving forward. So let's just get into these stats, okay? So Lamar Jackson, 26 for 42, 348 passing yards, 4 touchdowns, 8.3 yards per attempt. King Henry, okay? 15 attempts for 92 yards, 1 touchdown, 6.1 rushing yards per carry, 62 rushing yards after contact. This man is a beast. Zay Flowers, 12 targets for 7 receptions, 111 receiving yards, 15.9 receiving yards per reception. Okay? Joe Burrow, 30 for 39, 392 passing yards, 5 touchdowns, 1 pick, 10.1 yards per attempt, 76.9 completion percentage, right? 76.9. That's almost an 80% completion percentage. Good God Almighty. Chase Brown, 12 attempts for 46 rushing yards, 3.8 rushing yards per carry. Jamar Chase, 12 targets for 10 receptions, 193 receiving yards, 2 touchdowns, and 19.3 receiving yards per reception. Now, when we look at this was a shootout. This was a flat-out shootout. That's just what it is. This was a shootout of a game. This was a game where, you have, two of the best quarterbacks in the league balling out. That's just what it is. When Lamar would do his thing, Joe Burrow would do it. When Joe Burrow would do his thing, Lamar would do his thing. And it was just a back and forth. It was just a back and forth. And, it was a really good game. Now, I thought the Ravens had lost it because they had fumbled it and whatnot. But then I was like, oh, man, they did it. They got the ball back. And then they kicked the field goal. I was like, whoa, this was a great game. A great game. So, all in all, the Ravens are starting to pick up some momentum, which is great. But at the same time, if you're a Bengals fan, you're still struggling. You're still struggling, and it's not really that good. Now, granted, Joe Burrow has been doing their thing, but I think the thing that's messing them up the most is that defense. The defense is really not that good. When we really look at things and we really dissect things, the interior defensive line is not good. The pass rush is okay. It's sustainable. The secondary isn't that good, especially with them losing, Dax Hill for the rest of the season. And the linebackers, eh. It's a little bit cringy. Ugh. It's not the best. Ugh. It's just not. But it's do I think the Bengals are out of it? No. This is the Bengals. All they need is to just get on the street. If they win 2 or 3 games, they're literally back in the driver's seat. That's just who the Bengals are. The Bengals are that type of team that's going to be a nuisance. Once things start to keep on going. Now, when we look at Derrick Henry, though, Derrick Henry has been doing his thing. I can make a strong case that this has probably been the most productive Derrick Henry that we have seen, this early into the season. Because usually Derrick Henry really doesn't start, being a beast until the first like real cold snap. But for him to do it this early, and he's balling. I'm talking about when he gets the ball, it's a first down and more, basically. That's just what it is. And for a moment, he was unstoppable. He was. Now, granted, the Bengals, their run game was also starting to get out of hand as well. But Jamar Chase was doing his thing. Everybody else was doing their thing. Now, the only thing that did have me a little bit concerned was John Harbaugh's play call. Well, not play calling, but his decision making. And the reason why I say that is because there was a play where Mike Gesicki, basically somewhat made of a toe tap, but but once you looked at the replay, he really wasn't in. That should have been a play where you should have, challenged it. And he didn't do it. Like, these are the small things that, if you don't address them now, when you get to the playoffs, when you get to the AFC Championship, they're going to matter the most. And if you don't do it now, you're really going to put yourself in a bad situation, because that could be the difference between 3 points or 7 points or the game being over. That's just what it is. So, hats off to the Ravens of doing their thing. And, Bengals, you guys still suck. Sorry. Now, on to a team that everybody has been talking about. Everybody has been raving about. Everybody wants to see more of: the Commanders. Yes, that's right. Commanders fans, you finally have some happiness in your life. You finally have some sunshine in your life. Because, wow, you guys were struggling for a long time. But looks like Jaden Daniels is the hope that you guys need. And, once again, he balls out. That's just what it is. He balled out once again. So, Jaden Daniels was 14 for 25, 238 passing yards, 1 touchdown, 1 pick, 9.5 yards per attempt, and a 56 completion percentage. Austin Eckler, 6 attempts for 67 yards, 11.2 rushing yards per carry, 2 rushes of 10 yards or more. Terry McLaurin, 8 targets for 4 receptions, 112 yards, 28 receiving yards per reception, and 29 yards after the catch, okay? Deshaun Watson, 15 for 28, 125 yards, 1 touchdown, 4.5 yards per attempt, a 53.6 completion percentage, okay? Jerome Ford, 9 attempts for 47 yards, 5.2 rushing yards per carry, and 2 rushes of 10 yards or more, okay? Amari Cooper, 10 targets for 4 receptions, 60 receiving yards, and 15 receiving yards per reception. Now, when we look at this, this Commanders offense is balling out, right? This Commanders offense is just they are it's a fireworks show. That's just what it is. Every time Jaden Daniels gets the ball in his hands, he's about to make a dynamic play. He's about to do something phenomenal. He's about to be on, ESPN top 10 plays. That's just what it is. All in all, it looks like, the hiring of Cliff Kingsbury was a great move. The move to get Jaden Daniels, that was a great move as well. And this team has a lot of potential. It does. This offense has a lot of potential. I think, if they get another receiver, if they get maybe a more productive tight end, problems. And then that defense, the defense isn't, dynamic, but it's a defense that gets the job done, right? Bobby Wagner is still, being the tackling machine that he is, and that defense is just continuing to be productive as a whole. And, kudos to Dan Quinn and everybody else on the defensive side that's been doing their thing. This Commanders team, can definitely be, can definitely win the division if they continue to move forward. And that's not even counting if they make any moves, during before the trade deadline. So I mean, all in all, they're red hot. The rest of their schedule is, it's competitive, but it's not something where it's like, oh man, they're not going to win that game. Like the Ravens and Commanders game, that's going to be a great game. That's going to be a great game. I promise you, it's going to be another shootout. It's going to be fireworks. It's going to be dynamic, okay? Now, for the Browns, if I'm the Browns, I'm probably tanking. I'm probably tanking, and I'm probably, thinking about the future at this point because Deshaun Watson is not the same Deshaun Watson that they traded for. He's not. He has regressed tremendously. It looks like, his teammates do not believe in him, and it's costing them wins. It is. And I understand that they traded for him despite the controversy and the stuff that he was going through because of the potential and what he did with the Texans, but he hasn't even done anything close to what he did when he was with the Texans. He just hasn't. And mind you, he probably has more in the Brown situation than he did with the Texans. Like with the Browns, he has Amari Cooper, Jerry Jeudy, David Njoku, Nick Chubb, and company, right? Like you would think that he will be balling out and he will be doing something, but he hasn't, and it's bad. And I just this was a horror. This will go down in history as the worst trade of all time. And it's going to continue to kick them in the ass, and it's going to continue to be a situation that is going to hold them back from potentially making a deep playoff run or making it to the Super Bowl, because for the past few years they've had some really good rosters that could take them to where they need to go. But guess what? The two things that are always getting in the way, either injuries or themselves, every single time. Every single time. Now, moving on to the final thing we have to talk about. There'll probably be another episode this week. It probably will, because there's a whole lot that we have to talk about. We still have to talk about, trade predictions and all those different types of things. So let's just keep that in mind. Now, we have to talk about the 49ers. Yeah, we have to talk about the 49ers. We have to talk about the 49ers simply because, they are in they're at a crossroads. They're definitely at a crossroads because with CMC not playing for the last few weeks, it's things are starting to look a little bit stagnant for them as well. Now, granted, they'll still be one of the best offenses and one of the best defenses in the league and whatnot, but that pop, that zap, that just something different with them, right? Something was always different when CMC was on that field. It just took that offense and everything to a whole nother level. But since he hasn't been able to play, they really haven't been able to do a whole lot. And this is a very much needed season where they have to go and they have to win it all. Because if you don't, it's not promised that you guys will be able to go back next year. And they've been trying to put things off for years and years and years, and made some moves and did this and did that, and it hasn't it hasn't ended with them winning a championship. They've gotten close a few times, but they just have not been able to win. Now, let's just talk about the game. Let's talk about the game. Kyler Murray was 19 for 30, 195 passing yards, 1 touchdown, 1 pick, 6.5 yards per attempt, a 63.3 completion percentage, right? James Conner, 19 attempts for 86 yards, 4.5 rushing yards per carry, 3 rushes of 10 plus yards or more. Michael Wilson, 6 targets for 5 receptions, 78 receiving yards, 15.6 receiving yards per reception, right? Brock Purdy, 19 for 35, 244 passing yards, 1 touchdown, 2 picks, 7 yards per attempt, a 54.3 completion percentage. Jordan Mason, 14 attempts for 89 yards, 6.4 rushing yards per carry, 3 rushes of 10 yards or more. Brandon Ayuk, 12 targets for 8 receptions, 147 receiving yards, 18.4 receiving yards per reception. Now, I get it. Most divisional games, they are a little bit competitive, and a lot of times they're going to come down to, who has the ball last, or who's going to make the dynamic play. I get that. Most divisional games, they're close, right? They can go either way. Even if there's a team that isn't really that good on paper, it's still a divisional game. It can still go either way. We've seen it multiple times. But, I think this 49ers offense is really missing CMC. I really do, because, I wouldn't say that they're struggling, but the diversity that Christian McCaffrey has in his game, not only being a running back, but can double as a slot receiver and a receiving back, that definitely means a lot. It really does. And with him not being on the field, it makes it harder for them to be able to, to get these wins. Because according to StatMuse, right, 49ers all-time record without CMC, 42-46. 42-46. That is their record without CMC. Now their record with CMC is 22-5. And granted, we really still don't know what's going on with Christian McCaffrey. Like, anytime you have to go to Germany, you have to go international to figure out what's going on with you and to get treatment and whatnot, that means that it's something serious. Something very serious. So who's to say? I don't think really nobody really knows when Christian McCaffrey is really going to be ready. I really don't. I don't care what Kyle Shanahan says. I don't care what John Lynch says. I would not be surprised if Christian McCaffrey is not ready until the second half of the season, or better yet, towards the end of the season. I would not be surprised. I think they're hoping, they're wishing, and they're praying that that's the case. But who knows at this point? Honestly, like, even when we look at it, right? Their passing offense is ranked 4th. Their rushing offense is ranked 7th, which is great. But when it comes to the defense, their passing defense is ranked 12th, and their rushing defense is ranked 9th. Now, granted, they've had their own, things, their own problems with injuries. They lost Gravedigger for the season, and there's other defensive linemen that are going to be out for a while as well. So, expect for them to be a little bit active, around the trade deadline, just to patch some things up and address some pressing needs that they have on both sides of the ball. Because again, this is the year, right? This is the end all be all. This is the year. If they do not win a Super Bowl this year, everything that they have done within the past 4 or 5 years have been a waste. From trading for Trent Williams to paying Brandon Ayuk, even though they probably should have just let him go because of, I'm not even going to talk about that. To, letting people like DeForest Buckner go and Eric Armstead go and, this person and that person. Like, all of that, is going to be a bust at this point, And so hopefully they can do something. Now, I'm going to end this here. 53 minutes. Golly, I would have thought I would have been around 30 minutes, but I guess not. When you have a whole lot to talk about, that's what happens, right? So I'm going to end this here. If you guys like what you're listening to, please leave a 5-star review wherever you guys listen and get your daily fix of Football Junkies content, whether that be on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, RSS feed, or anywhere that you get access to the Football Junkies podcast. Okay, now, to my YouTube people, like, share, subscribe, turn that notification bell on, leave a comment down below. What do you think? Should Robert Saleh should Robert Saleh should have been fired, or should Nate Hackett, should he have been fired? Let me know down in the comments down below. All right, let's have a conversation about this. Now, to my Instagram people, right? Football_Junkies pod, okay? Football_Junkies pod. Junkies pod is not what? It is together, not spaced, folks. It is together, not spaced. Now, for my YouTube people, Football Junkies pod, okay? Football Junkies Pod. It's not spaced together. It's no underscore or anything. It's all together. Football Junkies Pod. Now, for my TikTok people, okay? The same thing. Football underscore Junkies Pod, okay? Football underscore Junkies Pod. I'm seeing that you guys do like the clips, so I'm definitely going to start putting out more clips for you guys, since you guys definitely like that. So let's see what happens with that. And as always, I hope I gave you guys the fix that you guys need this week. Stay tuned. There should be another episode that should be coming out this week as well, because we do have some really good matchups, not only for Thursday night football, but also for Sunday as well. I love you guys. I appreciate you guys. Peace and love. I am out. Later.